Firstly, welcome to our we've got that working now. Welcome to our monthly meeting. Firstly, do I have any apologies? Any conflicts of interest for reporting? Firstly, come to acknowledgements, and the first is for John Harris. A number would have seen the comments on Facebook, but also the acknowledgement for John's exemplary service to this district over a number of years, especially in the area of our community, particularly in our when it comes to the council and the drainage area. He also made a contribution in the area of supporting scouting and other initiatives around Woodend, a renowned historian, an individual that you never died wondering what he was thinking. It would be fair to say, and I know I had my pedigree read to me on a number of occasions, which I never minded, but I did regularly get calls from John about numerous things. He was someone that did care very deeply about our district, especially Woodend and the surrounding areas, but someone very notable for wanting the history and things recorded correctly. As I said, he obviously passed at an earlier age, but hadn't had good health for recent years. Extensive involvement also in the Woodend Rugby Club. In fact, was patron there. Known to occasionally offend a few while giving the patron speeches, but it was always taken in really good heart. I think the mark of a person is the respect in which they're shown, and his funeral was huge. There was a very big attendance there, which showed the mark of respect. I know a number of you were present at that. He'd had a lot to do with the scouting movement in particular, and I think at some stage I'd certainly like us to explore the possibility of naming the Scout Den and Woodend in his memory, and it's something I certainly would like to recommend and see us explore, because it's about to go through a refurbishment, and I know he'd had a lot to do with it over the years and certainly was very passionate about it being able to be reused. So I think the Lions are at the present stage, so maybe some way of fittingly remembering John in the future, but that will be a matter for CNR and Council and our board to consider. If we could just stand and observe a moment's silence for John. Thank you. I'd also like to acknowledge Friday and thank you for all that turned out to the sod turning of our new health hub. And in particular, I want to really acknowledge Murray Tilliard, Emeritus Professor Tilliard, who through his work and his commitment has seen us make the health hub become a reality. So a number of you will have heard in comments that Murray has a very deep connection to here, starting in Saltwater Creek, where they had a pig farm, I believe, in the day, including his family who reside, number of family members who finally reside over in the Methodist Cemetery, as I understand, more permanent residents. So Murray's commitment to this project from day one has been absolute, and when you hear the personal connection, it's meant a lot to him, and that's why through all the years and ups and downs, and it certainly has, as the Deputy Mayor and the Chief Executive will know, as we've been very intimately involved in those discussions and negotiations over that period. But it's been Murray who has been the shining light there to make sure that this happens. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you all for attending on Friday. I think that was a really important day in our district. All right, any other acknowledgements? We come to confirmation of minutes. So we have minutes of the meeting of the council meeting on the Tuesday the 5th of August. Is someone prepared to move? Councillor Ward, seconded. Councillor Redmond. Any discussion? I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, declare that carried. Are there any matters arising from the minutes? I have been advised of no deputations and presentations, and we have no adjourned business. The first report is 7.1, and that is on muscle car madness. If I could invite the Chief Executive who's leading that report. Thank you.
Basically, I'll take the report as being read, but just highlight a few points. This particularly consent is, sorry, this particular consent was caught up with the new district plan, and the event is quite an iconic event. It's become that after a number of years, and meeting the gentlemen involved that run it are looking for some assistance to effectively get noise control and some planning advice to contribute towards the cost of the resource consent. Noting that other costs that relate to the consent would be picked up by this group. But it's an event which wasn't intended to be caught by a district plan, but has been due to the size that it's become. And there are some benefits which this particular event brings into the district, and so there's a report here which is asking the council to contribute up to 15,000 to provide for the sound report or noise control report, and some planning resource to go with it. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of the CEO? Jason, Councillor Coswell.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. Do we have a rough estimate on how much economic benefit this event has brought into the district over the years?
No, I don't have an actual figure to it. Just that you see from the likes of the people that come into the event, supermarkets, the amount of activity it generates. It also puts Rangiora on the map. If you look at some of the journals that go right across the world, it's put into those magazines. Obviously, people get interested in the event. They travel right throughout New Zealand. They've even had people from overseas come to it. So it has become iconic over the years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Redmond.
Thank you, Chief. Can you confirm that this is a one-off and that the resource consent, when granted, will last indefinitely?
Yes, it'll be a one-off consent and will last indefinitely, as I understand.
Thank you. Councillor Fulton.
Thank you. Just for clarity, it says in the sort of notes to the report that we've worked hard with the community and local residents, to address their concerns about noise, adverse impacts. Does this mean that our team still works in, inspection team, not on anyone's side? They're still going about their normal course of business in terms of, measuring noise, inspections. It's just we're not taking a position necessarily on this sort of stuff.
No, that's correct. This is to actually provide an independent report which gives the impacts of what that event would bring in terms of the noise and the effects on surrounding properties, and it would also come with the cushioning effects of how to reduce that sound down as well, and what types of activity or barriers they could put in place to reduce that noise.
So it's a form of sort of a mitigation, advanced mitigation to ensure compliance with the consents, conditions and the plan.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Any further questions? You have a question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering why we should force them to have a noise thing on it when it's been going for 34 years. And we know the noise affects, my place is probably one of the worst affected places, if anything. And it's not seemed to be a big problem around the area, so why are we forcing this on them and then council for these type of funds for that when it's been going for 34 years? Legitimate question, I think. We moved the annual plan thinking it wasn't going to affect groups like this.
I think all good district plans should have noise control in it, so that the residents, people in the community are protected from various effects of any event, and this here puts in a control mechanism to make sure that if there are effects, they're mitigated to the effect, through an independent report.
Any further questions? I'm going to move the recommendation from the chair as a seconded Councillor Keynes. In moving this, when the district plan was being reported back and we were understanding what the consequences were, we were advised at that point, all of us, that it would more than likely need to go through a consent process. And it was advised that that shouldn't be difficult because it's an existing event. However, as it's gone through, it's been discovered that there will need to be an acoustic report undertaken. It also will require some expert planning advice, and it was just clear in discussions that I had with the organisers, which I invited a number of you to be part of, who are portfolio holders, including Councillor Williams, Councillor Redmond and Councillor Keynes, in the space, that that was becoming a barrier potentially for the owners. So we had a discussion with them last week. We advised that a report was going to come to council for an endorsement around, or hopefully support those offset of costs. So this is not something we have happen every day, and not necessarily something that we take necessarily a position on, but this is an iconic event. It's been going for 34 years. It does bring a huge benefit to this district. Those of us who, especially myself, I'm a car lover, so I do enjoy attending. I'm not going to say muscle cars are necessarily my thing, but I do enjoy going down and observing and the event and all that it brings, including the drive-by that goes on a Thursday evening. I think that's become a really good thing in the sense that you get to see what the cars are like and how they perform on the road. There's one or two that certainly test our local police, and I know last time I watched as the police were out in enforcement, and certainly made it clear to those to behave themselves with burnouts and other things that may have been occurring. But that's one or two as opposed to the majority who actually are very responsible at what they do. The operators themselves have indicated over the years the efforts that they've gone to meet. They meet every year after the event to manage the effects of that, including working with the police, with our roading staff, and across the board, AMP Association as well, around how they can just be better operators, and they're very much committed in that space. Like Councillor Williams, my property is very near, not as close as Councillor Williams, but it's not far, and I certainly hear that all weekend. And I don't mind, because I live in that area. It's one weekend a year, and it's just something that I know that a lot of get enjoyment from. I'm not going to say that that is widely held within the area, because certainly over the years I have met with some residents who are nearby that do have their concerns about noise and related matters, and it's appropriate that we do deal with those in the right means. I don't want to see this event not occur, because it's something that does bring a lot of visitors to the area, and I know that there is an economic benefit, whether it's measured specifically. I'm not aware of all those figures, but anecdotally, certainly hearing from local retailers and others, the food industry, supermarkets, the alcohol industry related as well, in terms of our bottle shops, they have a good weekend. And broader, there are other experiences that people have as they go around. It's not just here in Rangiora, they do drive all around the district and other locations. So I think it's one of those iconic events that I certainly want to see continued. And when we're aware that the district plan conditions would enable us to have to go through a consent, then how do we assist in a pragmatic way to get that there? And this is the answer today. I do think and I think the owners themselves would agree that while they've been going for 30-odd years, 34 years, while they would have preferred not to have been going through a consenting pathway, they do understand that actually for them it gives more certainty in the future, because without a consent you are open to complaints and other things where that's not may not necessarily be able to be managed and protected, whereas this does give, once they go through this process, a greater protection. So supporting this financially, making sure that they've got good advice to help them through this process is a pragmatic way forward, and I fully support that. Councillor Keens.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. When you consider that in this district we actually have an iconic event which happens to be one of the largest shows in the Southern Hemisphere, whilst this was unintended consequence with regard to the district plan changes that they now have to go through this consenting process, we need to support it. And I look at the amount of applications that have been made with regard to events, and I can't think of any time that Musselcar Matters have applied to ENC for funding for any of the events in the past. So subsequently, this small one-off cost of $15,000 is minimal to keep this iconic event in the district. It brings a bit of fun to the district. The actual car drive through the towns of Kaiapoi and Rangiora are just so much fun as to how it brings people out. And I'd ask you to support this one-off cost being paid by council to actually get them through this hurdle of the resident consent process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Yes, I will be supporting this. Reasons being, we were the ones that changed the playing field for them, that's caused them to have to do this. They are an iconic event in waimakariri. It covers Kaiapoi, they go up Oxford, they cover the whole area on their runs. They bring people out from all over New Zealand and even Australia to this event. So I think it's quite an iconic event. People don't also realise that some of the fundraising they do there actually goes to some of our charities around waimakariri. I know they've given some to their civil defence outfit at one stage. I think it was $4,500. They've given it to all sorts of charities. So they are just not a take and run with money here. They actually do look after our charities as well. So I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Further speakers? Deputy.
Thank you. Everything's turned off. Look, I'll be supporting this too, but unintended consequence, not at all. the district plan purposely put in these protections for these events. You're looking at it negatively. This is not negative, this is positive. These people will have something to sell because they have the rules around what they need to do. Just about, this doesn't, I'm not justifying it by this, but every other district in the country that we looked at their district plan actually had this in their district plan. I'd already heard the argument from the event organiser where he was going to go across to another district. Well, sorry, but you would have to do exactly the same thing in the other district because they have it in their district plan exactly the same. This actually protects people from what can happen outside those events. It's actually a positive, not a negative. I've got no problem with supporting this to go through for the first time because they are caught up, and yes, they've been here for 34 years. And unfortunately, the neighbours haven't caused the nuisance. It's the event that causes the nuisance to the neighbours, not the other way round. It's like the airport. We've got the airport at the moment who's going to appeal things. Sorry, it's not our noise, it's the airport's noise. If you live across the road from there, and the Mayor is absolutely right, many complaints from people around that area on noise and on smoke that comes across from the burnouts. Many. And our departments have to deal with it. This protects them. This is the right thing to do because that way you actually have something to sell when you want to sell the event. And the event's already been up for sale. We all know that. It's been on the open market for sale. This actually gives them something to sell, gives them the rules that they have to work in, and gives them the outcome that will be required. So I urge you to support this because because the event is already here, the costs are above what they would normally do. But this is a protection and a positive, not a negative.
Any further speakers? Councillor Redmond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only comment is we need to be an enabling council and hopefully permit and encourage these types of events. I see this as a very special case. It's not creating a precedent in my view, so I'll be very happy to support this event, which I do try and attend every year. Thank you.
Councillor Meanings.
Sorry, that first one of the day gets you. Look, the whole point of the provisions that were in the district plan around this sort of thing were to protect the ability of the ANP show to hold events exactly like this. And there are a whole lot of other things. Now, yes, it needs a noise consent, but there are a whole lot of other things that it doesn't need to worry about anymore, and it will have a safe pathway to continue into the future. Again, the noise chapter is something that is in every new district plan. It's a national standard. You're not going to find a district plan that doesn't have this if it's a modern one like it should be. We aren't any different. We heard from a lot of people that came and talked about varying provisions in our plan, and more than a few came and talked specifically about muscle car madness. So if we want this event to continue, this has to happen. And I note that this $15,000, this is up to, and may not cost that much. And the economic benefit that our district will get from making this event able to continue, excuse me, losing my voice, will go into the future. This is a one-off. It's easy, done, dusted, and everybody will live happily ever after, and that's why I support this. Thank you.
Any further speakers? Councillor Fulton.
Oh, just sort of really giving a top line of some of the commentary we've heard here this morning, but I think it does give the event some surety, and I think it's a good point that it gives them surety commercially, that it's also, it helps to, I suppose, ratify the existing sort of operating conditions that, for the event, and it sounds like they have done a good job of working with the community as much as they can. I think it's probably important for the community that they meet that sort of the good neighbour test, and there's nothing to here that makes me think that they're not already doing that, but it is a licence for the community, as I say, and they need to have that both in terms of the consents and in terms of the way they operate and interact with the community. So GRIP's great event. You can probably tell by my car, I'm not a car aficionado. I probably don't do enough waxing and scrubbing in my own car, but perhaps I could learn something from Muscle Car Madness in the coming event. So yeah, that's probably about as much as I need to say about that. So I'm happy to support this recommendation.
We all like to see the Corolla pimped out and on the burnout pad there, Tim. But any other speakers? Just in right to reply, I think the Deputy Mayor is exactly right, and we were advised around, as it was being reported back, that this was a likely consequence and that it would, the pathway for consent was indicated in the district plan, but as we became clearer around what some of those costs might be and the impact on the organisers, that's what led to this report today. We did ask in the questions I personally asked and others did as well, that our parks reserves that hold major events, that we did have protections in there and that the noise measurements were such that wasn't going to put off major activities. And for instance, fireworks, we've had them in Victoria Park or AMP showgrounds, the Oxford up there at the AMP and area, Trusselo Park, Mandeville, and Woodend, around Gladstone Park, where there are events. They're all things that we did test through that, and the AMP showgrounds themselves here to make sure that they were fit for purpose. So I think the process is right. It's just it becomes the cost, and with a major event like this, so that's where it's appropriate it comes here to council, and council makes that determination as to whether it will support or not, as the case may be. There's a process around fees and charges for consents which would be separately considered, and there is already a process in place for that, so that's outside of this as I understand it, but it's around supporting that application. Hopefully there's sufficient there with that to enable that to go, or around the cost process to not be a barrier for that organisation. So, and Councillor Williams is right, and the organisers were here last week, they did mention the various organisations that have supported NZRT 12 schools. There are a number of groups that they do provide financial support to, but also critically to our AMP. It's a major event for them and a major earner, and organisations like the AMP certainly need events like this to occur. I support it. I think it's at the right venue and location with the size and scale, noting that there are certainly inconveniences for the neighbourhood. Being one who lives in there, I don't mind that, but the appropriate mitigations and other matters are regularly looked at and discussed with the community, including the caps that they're putting on music and how they are dealing with that now. We're in a changed environment and people's acceptance or otherwise of things changes. So they're very cognizant of that and want to be a good player in the neighbourhood. So I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary? Clear that carried. Thanks, Jeff and team, for doing that. All right, we're at 7.2 now, which is the minor amendments to the Northern Pegasus Bay bylaw. Sylvia.
Good morning. Just noting that staff provided Yep, that's sorted. Noting that staff provided an operational update to the Community and Recreation Committee last week on the Northern Pegasus Bay bylaw. At that meeting, the committee approved a new user agreement for aircraft landing on the beach. What I bring to you today is a report to make a minor amendment to the bylaw, which is a result of the work that was undertaken to develop that user agreement, where it was noted that the bylaw did not clearly explain that requirement is for the estuary area. I will take the report as read and open for any questions.
Questions, colleagues? You have a question, Councillor Edmund?
Thank you for the report, Sylvia. At the time of the hearing, with the bylaw, the panel asked staff to engage with the Civil Aviation Authority over the airspace above the estuary. Are those talks ongoing?
At the moment, the estuary doesn't have any status as such, so we have a commitment in the implementation plan in section 2 to look at potentially getting sentient status for the estuary. The expectation is it will be much easier to have a conversation with the CAA around that should we be able to achieve that status.
Right, thank you.
Further questions? This recommendation, someone please move. Councillor Williams, seconded. Councillor Ward. Oh, sorry, you'll probably have some comment in debate, Councillor Blackie, no doubt. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Williams? Councillor Ward?
No, I understand the correction, and thank you, Sylvia, for listening and for the work that you've done to make it good for everyone.
Councillor Blackie, did you wish to speak?
Just a comment. Thanks, Sylvia. Under your tutelage, we've hammered this out for the last 18 months, and it's an excellent result. It's just an example of the things that are controversial. If you go into Facebook on the Kaipoi threads, you'll see the whitebait encampment that has been set up at the mouth of the Waimak with photos. And it's actually a campground. They have caravans there. They have perimeter walls around their little bit of the thing. And the staff are dealing with that at the moment. We haven't got anything in our armament to handle that properly, and it's a classic example of the things that keep cropping up and relevant to the bylaw and how we are doing our best to handle them. Go and have a look at the photos.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Right of reply, Councillor Williams. Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, declare that carried. Thanks, Sylvia. 7.3, which is addition to Building Act Delegation Section 91. Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and Councillors. In June this year, International Accreditation New Zealand, or known as IANZ, undertook Council's routine Building Consent Authority Accreditation Assessment. During that assessment, the IANZ assessors identified that the delegation for Section 91 of the Building Act wasn't included in staff delegations from Council. Section 91 of the Building Act allows Council to issue a code compliance certificate where original building consent was issued by another building consent authority. It's important to note that this section of the Act is very rarely relied upon, if ever, by Council, and hasn't been relied upon by our Council in the past, but IANZ identified it as something that we may perhaps need to use in the future. Approval of this proposal will support Council's ongoing accreditation, and I'll take the paper as read, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Thanks, Aaron. Questions, Councillor Fulton, Redmond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Aaron. Just a broad question, and so our current operating, why haven't we needed to rely on this delegation? Is it just a sort of an emergency power, or where does it sort of sit? What instances would we need it for?
I guess the conceivable situation where we may need to rely on this is where another authority disagrees with an applicant for a code compliance certificate and refuses to issue that code compliance certificate, and it may be in our district, noting that at the moment we have private building consent authorities entering the market. There is potential for that to occur where a property owner may come to us and say we can't get a code compliance certificate out of the BCA that issued the consent. Would our council consider issuing one?
Councillor Redmond.
Thank you, Aaron. Just following on from that question, if we were to issue a code compliance certificate for a consent issued by another authority, what liability would your department and council be under?
So the liability would be similar to if we'd issued a code compliance certificate for a consent that we'd issued ourselves. The process of managing the application for a code compliance certificate would involve a thorough review of the original building consent and us being satisfied that the building work was completed in accordance with that building consent, just as we would for any other code compliance certificate that we receive where we issued the building consent.
So would the extra time taken going back through that building consent be charged for, or do you have a standard fee for issuing a code compliance certificate?
We have a standard application fee, but when the code compliance application processing is complete, we charge what it actually cost our council to process that, so there's no cost to council of us managing one of those applications.
Right. Just a question. Just check is there any other questions? Councillor Fulton?
In the event, Aaron, you tell us about, perhaps some of the new conditions where you might have another consenting party and a little bit of loggerheads. And that perhaps this one for our CEO is we've got a delegation to our general planner proposed here, but would these kind of loggerhead disputes actually come to council if we are in a bit of a bind? Or is this delegated to the planning manager and we just none the wiser? Because there's some of these, it sort of infers there could be disputes and issues that we're not aware of.
So disputes over or differences in interpretation of the building code and whether something complies with a building consent or the building code, that occurs frequently within our business. Sometimes they reach an impasse and they might go to a determination with MB, and there's often a decision made that way over the disagreement. It's difficult to conceive every possible scenario that may occur where somebody does have a dispute with the original BCA, but that's something that we would look into thoroughly before we issued the code compliance certificate, because if they had a good reason for not wanting to issue it, we'd want to know what that was and make sure that we weren't not aware of that situation and made a mistake in issuing the code compliance certificate.
Councillor Means.
Hopefully I can speak. So just to be clear, so even if our council has this delegation to be able to do this, it's still our choice to say, actually, no, thank you, not touching that.
That's exactly right. Just as if we were considering a code compliance certificate where we'd issued the building consent, we always have a choice to refuse to issue it. And in fact, we have an obligation to do that if we don't believe that they've completed the building work in accordance with the building consent and that it complies with the building code.
Okay. And to date, we haven't had any situations like this that we would have used this provision?
No, not that I'm aware of. That hasn't occurred in the past. Typically, when there's a dispute between the applicant and the BCA, there's another process that they can go through where it goes to the Ministry of Business Innovation and Employment, Building Performance Unit. It goes to them for a determination, which is a function that the Building Act makes provision for, and that's binding on the parties. So they will decide whether it was right or wrong to refuse to issue a code compliance certificate, and then both parties have to live by that decision.
So an MB determination is an alternative to this? And we're just asking for this for completeness, basically, of the powers that somebody thinks that we should, that IANS believes that we should have.
Yeah, that's correct. And you might expect that it may have gone through a determination process before it would ever come to us. It's possible that it might not have, but that may be something that we would suggest to an applicant before they did come to us, depending on the circumstances, of course.
Thank you, because I do find this quite fascinating that we would, thanks.
Right. Councillor Goldsworthy.
I'm happy to move this one.
Okay. Just hold a second. Is there any other questions? We have a move. Is there a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Redmond. Councillor Goldsworthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the easiest way to sum this up is it's preemptively delegating to staff something that may crop up in the ever-changing landscape of the building regulation area. For the best part of 20 years, we haven't really had to deal with anything of this nature. We would have stuff coming to council for us to check someone else's work of this nature, because we've been the ones to be doing this. This is the staff's bread and butter. They know what they're doing. They're already managing the risks to council. So it's just extending for what may pop up in the future.
Councillor Goldsworthy, Councillor Readland.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the recommendation. I think it's very important that the building unit retains its accreditation, and it appears this is, or has been, an oversight in the past that it wasn't picked up. It is a minor delegation, and as Aaron has indicated, it's rarely, if ever, likely to be used, and I have confidence in the building unit to ensure that the council is adequately protected before a code compliance certificate is issued. So I'm happy to support this. It seems to be a minor technicality, and we're tying up a small loophole as such. Thank you.
I will also support this. I think it makes sense to do so. We never want to lose our accreditation. We saw what happened years ago when the city did, and led to our decision, I think rightly. I didn't necessarily support it at the time because I liked the function of Prime, but actually I think it was the right function to do, which was to bring it back in-house and to have our building unit housed here. That distance from the organisation, I think, matured in my opinion. I think it would be fair to say at the time. And I have seen firsthand how our building unit works and just the levels that they go to make sure that people are looked after. They're not going about trying to make life difficult at all. They're actually just trying to make sure that people are living in a safe house and their assets protected. There are plenty of examples where that hasn't occurred through other councils, and the consequences for that. Dealing with Aaron's been with us. How long has it been for now, Aaron?
4 months.
4 months. We've had a number of instances where we met with various individuals and show great common sense and care. It's appreciated. In fact, the lady stopped me at a hoka the other night, and she was bestowing your virtues to me quite strongly, because she had dealings with you when you were working at Grey, particularly in Brunner. So I thought that was very high praise. She said, we're very lucky to have you. So it was nice. So I thought, she said, if you get an opportunity to share that with Aaron, will you do so? So I have now. So I can tick that off my list. So I support the recommendation. Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Aaron, fielding those variety of questions. And I think it is, as my colleague says, it's a minor change, but it's an important one. And it ensures our accreditation, which is obviously of extreme value to the council and the community. It is also, to some extent, perhaps even inadvertently, it anticipates that we may have other sort of consenting parties and authorities, and that we sort of have that especially situation where a delegation is to our general manager of planning and regulations is especially important. But it hasn't come to that, and it may never come to that, but it's important to have that provision. So thank you, and I'm happy to support the recommendation here.
Any further speakers? Right for reply. Put the recommendation. All in favour, please say aye. Contrary. Declare that carried. Thanks, Aaron. Now come to 7.4, amendments to standing orders for council committees, subcommittees, and joint committee and hearing powers. Tia, are you leading this report, or yeah? Welcome both Tia and Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Your microphone's just not on there. You have to push it a few times, I think.
Fiddle with it till it goes.
There you are.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
as you may recall, we had a workshop session with the council in July to discuss some minor amendments to the standing orders. This has now been included, the input of the council has been included in the amendments as contained in the agenda, and we will take this report as read and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Thornton, main meetings.
Yes, and thank you. I was just interested in this being a provision of standing orders for community board. Will there be any change in the way that our community board can interact with the public or members outside our table? Because I know in Oxford Hoka we have somewhat fluid conversations sometimes, in terms of, so nothing actually changes, that this isn't actually impinging on the slightly more less formal approach.
So, through you, Mr. Brennan, no, it's not going to change any interaction around the community board table.
Thank you. Councillor Meanings.
Thank you. First, I just found a small error. In 21.2, it should say what time limits can be extended by, insert the word by there, and then it says resolution or etc.
What page is that on?
That is on page 126.
Thank you.
But going on to page 129, could you just clarify for me, it seems to be kind of hanging there by itself in 21.10 on page, 127, that adding mover and seconder may reserve speech. How would that be used exactly? I looked further into this and I don't see that that changes the right of reply for a mover, but is that just saying that a mover could, in the first instance, not speak to the motion? What is the purpose of that being added? I don't really see the value.
Get there.
Sorry.
Page 127.
Yeah.
Where is that?
It says, it's paragraph 21.10. It says mover, it's saying to add mover and seconder may reserve speech. And I'm just not sure how that would work or why we need to add that bit.
Well, usually the mover had the right to defer the right of reply or to defer the right to speak, and it's in terms of the new the new set of template that we received, they've now extended that right to the seconder as well. It's the the mover as well. I think it's just, but the mover always had the right to defer his right of reply. I just think it's a correction in the standing orders.
So that would just be somebody saying, yes, I'm happy to move the motion, whatever that was, and not speak to it at all, and listen to everybody, and then do their right of reply.
Yes.
Okay, because it just didn't seem clear, because I could see further on that in 21.18 that the right of reply is still there, but I thought, why would we actually? Okay. All right, thank you.
Are you happy with that explanation?
Yeah, I don't know why we would use it, but if people want to employ that, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be in there then.
Okay, and the other on 126 was just a correction that'll be picked up.
We will fix that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I have Councillor Redmond.
Thank you. Just a couple of points, clarification. On page 93 in diligent, under 4.6, I note in E, it's been amended. Does that change the current practice?
No.
No?
Some of the changes through the template have just made things either get to be a little bit more plain English or just clarified what was there before.
Right, thank you.
Rather than actually changing the intent of what is occurring during the meeting.
It's around the first meeting, isn't it, that you're asking?
Yes.
That's as it generally occurs, as I understand it. So
the next point relates to page 119 in Diligent. Deputations. Just want to find it here. Can you confirm that that's changing the current standing orders, which provide for 10 minutes, to a 5-minute slot, which seemed to be a significant change?
yeah.
That is the decision for the council, and it is also at the discretion of the chair of the meeting.
So
If that is extended a little bit longer or shortened.
I don't recall us discussing that specifically. Did we discuss that? Because I'm quite happy with the present practice of up to 10.
We're happy to make that 10 minutes. It still remains the discretion of the chair on
everyone
the day.
happy with that? Yeah. It's been up to 10 for some time, so.
It says up to 5 minutes. There's no point in bothering to make a deputation if we have.
Yeah, I think 10 minutes is more realistic, and if they're quicker than that, that's fine. If we have an absolute large number requesting, then where it says up to 10 minutes, it gives the discretion to the chair then anyway, so if that could be amended, it would be helpful. I wouldn't want anyone to think that we were restricting their ability to speak, so that's how that could be interpreted. So.
Hasn't the 10-minute rule as the status quo include questions though? It says that, are you going back to 10 minutes excluding, you're going to leave excluding in there?
What does the present rule say?
It's
Up
just
to 10 minutes.
It's just above the line.
I think why don't we just leave it as it's presently worded? And then it's up to the chair to make that discretion.
Okay.
Have that discretion.
So are you supporting 5 or 10 minutes?
10 minutes. Yeah. But I think revert to the original wording, which has been deleted. Just take out the red.
Okay. Happy to make that amendment too.
Right, thank you.
Right. Any other questions? We don't, Sarah, with those changes, we don't need to suggest anything further here. You pick those up. They've been recorded, so if a mover, it will contain that, is it correct? Right, we have a mover for that. Councillor Fulton, seconded by, and I'll do it at once. I'll second it. Right, do you wish to speak, Councillor Fulton?
No, thank you. I'm very happy to support recommendations, including the provisions we've discussed.
Just in supporting this, thank you for those who've picked up those changes there. I think they make sense to have those adjustments, but to thank our staff for the work that they do in making sure that our standing orders are compliant. They're a living document and they're a guide for a meeting, really. And ultimately, is at the discretion of the chair of any of our committees how they run the meetings, but the standing orders are there to protect everyone at the end of the day and to make sure that our meetings run efficiently and effectively. And it's a rarity that they're used in the sense that the spirit of discussion and that normally is encapsulated well, but if need be, they're protections for everyone. Thank you. So I'm in support of those. Any further speakers? Right, Councillor Redmond.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the recommendation. Standing orders are very important, and with my background, I guess I quite like standing orders. And at one stage, board member Gerard, a former Speaker of the House of Parliament, and I actually reviewed the standing orders, and I found that to be quite an interesting process. The point I would make here is that the government is looking at reviewing standing orders along with code of conduct rules. So how standing orders may in fact be short-lived depending what the government does, and I haven't seen what they're proposing, but no doubt that will come to the new council. So in the meantime, it is important we do have standing orders one of the things I think I glimpsed somewhere that they encourage the efficiency of the meeting. And I think that's really important. Otherwise we'd all sit here and talk and not ask questions when we should and so on. So I'm happy to support, I think, standing orders are essential.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Right, reply, Councillor Fulton.
I'll just write one of the parameters, and it's 16.4 restrictions. I think some of the intent behind this that I've observed in the last 3 years is that we should have a safe, welcoming and orderly operating environment where people who aren't routinely in the habit of coming to council and speaking, might be nervous, might need a support person, don't come here and feel that they're demeaned or that they're not giving the full opportunity to speak. And I think that's really important, because the worst thing that we can have in our environment is someone who comes here once and never comes back and thinks sort of ill of basically of the way that we behave as councillors. So look, not giving anyone any lectures, but those restrictions are important, that they're used if necessary. So I think the standing orders support that. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the recommendation. All in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Declare that carried. Thanks. We come to 8.1, which is the health, safety and wellbeing report. Mr. Millward.
Yeah, I'll just take this report as being there's the list of the incidents on Appendix A and the actions or outcomes to those incidents there. There's a little bit of a spike in incidents for June, July, but it appears to be more weather related rather than any particular problem that's occurring.
Any questions of the CE? Councillor Keens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in clarification on page 167 with regard to the airfield user departing the airfield, is there no signage or is there a stop sign or anything like that there to ensure that the person who's driving actually takes into account aircraft coming into land? Is there anything else that needs to be done to make that area safe?
I'm not sure about the signage. I'll follow that up.
Signage there.
There is signage there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's something that'll go. It's gone to the city.
Right. Any further?
Comment on it or not?
Well, it's not really your place to comment on that. You can in debate if you wish.
No, that's all right.
Right. This is a major clarifying point, but I think it can wait.
Yeah,
probably wait till debate then. Thank you. So, any further questions? Would you like to move the report, Councillor Warden?
Yes.
Provide your clarification.
Yes, that's fine.
You're moving, seconded by Deputy Mayor, Councillor Warden.
No, and it's a very good report.
Thank you very much.
But I would question an aircraft that would be below the fence line on approach to this 800 or 900 metres, and I think seriously it's either the aircraft can't be below the fence line when it's approaching the runway. So anyway, it's just a matter of opinion really.
I know they've gone and tried to reenact what happens, and it seems to be more of a fright than anything with the airplane coming in sight suddenly. There's no danger to the driver, as I understand. I've done that a couple of times just to see what could have occurred. So it's more the fact that it's come to the site at speed.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it should be at least 50 feet above the ground at that point anyway. So anyway, it's just an observation.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, any further speakers? I'll put the report. All in favour, please say aye. Contrary, that carries. We come to committee minutes for information. First is audit and risk. There's a recommendation there. Is someone prepared to move? Move, Deputy Mayor, seconded. Councillor Mealings. I'll put that, all those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, declare that carried. We've got community board minutes for information, 10.1 and 10.2. Some of the
Correction.
movers. You had a correction?
There's a correction on the name 2.8.
Do you want to put your microphone on? So.
Sorry, the name in 2.8 is incorrect, but I'll.
2 point, it's for the board to correct.
Yeah, we can.
But it could be noted
Well,
for
being
our
on,
staff.
yeah,
So what's the correct name?
Reedy,
Sorry?
Reidie, not Reitfeld. Actually, it's Lisa as well, you've got it completely.
Anyway, staff,
Yeah.
if you can pass it on to staff on the board, it'd be for the board to resolve. Yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, happy
So
to
the
move.
board's got this meeting tomorrow night, hasn't it?
Yes.
So they will resolve. Okay, yeah.
It's, just out of curiosity though, why do we have minutes coming before the council before they have actually been passed as true and accurate records by the committees themselves? In this case, our board. I know the timing's a bit off, but it's kind of hard to actually say, yes, this is a true and complete record, or are we just receiving it?
We are only receiving them, but I'm not clear on that myself, actually.
Yeah, normally the procedure is to go through the committees first, but we'll check on that.
Maybe well,
Because
it's
it's
not
happened
going
a
to
couple
harm.
times now, so.
Why don't we just
yeah.
leave these, because both of them in timing, they've got board meetings coming up. Why don't we leave these to come to the next meeting? Then those, I think that's a better practice. So we just leave these on the table. So there's nothing harming doing so. So, all right. Okay. So, good question, Councillor Meadings. We come to council portfolio updates. Under iwi relationships, nothing major to report apart from that we are obviously with the William bypass and the tolling. We're working with Mana Whenua on a joint submission. There should be a draft comes out the next day or so to colleagues for your comment on. I know staff have been working on that, but it's the intention, as was discussed at our last briefing, a workshop, that it's a joint submission with Ngāi Hariri along with our community board chairs. Have you taken any questions? Greater Christchurch Partnership, we had the last partnership meeting a few weeks ago now. There are a number of items that were reported there, including the partnership review. The partnership review document, the intention with that is that will be considered by the GCP in the next term. There's been some media comment on that, and there are a range of options, and there was no particular preference on what would or wouldn't be, but it was just timely after a number of years that the partnership's been operating that there was a review undertaken, and it wasn't conclusive because there were a range of opinions, so which can tend to be the case. The other major one, which is now outside of the meeting because it's been reported in the paper, was a presentation on the future of, a possibility of a rail to come from, it's an old rolling stock from Auckland, which has been purchased by a private operator. I think it's Mainland is the name, and they would look at operating rail from Rangiora and Rolleston, particularly for major events. There's apparently agreement in place where they're working with Kiwi Rail. The cost of that they're working on at the moment, but it's to use the sidings that we have now, especially in Rangiora and Rolleston. We have raised with them around the use of kaiapoi in the future, because where the fire station is, we did enable when that purchase was that land arrangement was put in place, that there is an easement there and provision for the future. There would be cost in putting in a platform there in the future, but we certainly wanted to make that clear. And when they met with Jeff and myself, we certainly made that point to them. But I personally think it's a great initiative if they can get it off the ground. And it's not uncommon in other events that I've attended anywhere in the world or in Auckland that it's built into your ticket price, the ability to take a public transport in there. So if rail becomes an option, that's great, and we'll see around the future of other options with respect to that. But at the moment it's limited to major events is what they're considering, and as many will be aware, there's been lots of investigations and work undertaken with mass rapid transit, and that work continues. Is there anything else other Nikki would want to add? Members?
Probably just that with the rail, that the event service that's being proposed will be running outside of normal freight times. It's not meant to be a permanent transport option for daily travel. It's just during events, which generally are held whenever we don't have freight trains going up there, since there's only one set of tracks. But it'll still make a really welcome addition to transport options to get in and out of town, and we'll probably resort in more people going to those events and probably spending a bit more time there, and probably good for everybody. But they need a platform, get Morehouse Ave first.
Yeah, well, they've got that.
That's on them, not us.
They've got that to solve, and when it gets into the city, but they're working through those options as we understand it. But it's a private arrangement. It's not requiring an investment from our ratepayers. But I would note, just going past the stadium, just how good it is looking actually, and it's going to be exciting to see it open and all the opportunities that will come about. That's not saying that we're making a commitment for any funding, David. So just saying that for the record, as you're squealing away with your pen. But it's an exciting opportunity, but it's looking really good. And, obviously, full credit to the city and the work that they're doing. My understanding is they've got a large number of requests of people wanting to come in and make visits in advance, and they've stopped that now, and they will have a public open day in due course, because the contract is really on deadline to get it complete by, I think it's March. So at this stage, I've had a couple of visits in there earlier in the year, and when we were part of the delegation with Belgium and others that were here, because it's a Belgian contractor that's building it, and it's looking really good. All right. Any questions? Government reforms, well, there's many. Still continuing, and we're finding out about those regularly. RM reform, still awaiting the detail on that, but we'll work through that when it comes our way. We've obviously got our challenges with the district plan, with some appeals, but as discussed last week, there's a process in place for how we'll consider that. And just at the end of our meeting today, we'll have a briefing on just a couple of matters with respect to that have come up. All right. Canterbury Water Management Strategy, Councillor. Sorry, any questions? Canterbury Water Management Strategy, Councillor Fulton.
Just wanted to note that particularly me, Dan and I had the opportunity to meet with some of the ECAN staff and some of our own senior staff in the water area just a few weeks ago, just to reiterate our zone committee's position that we absolutely do not want any changes in our zone boundary, and largely in our composition and our intent of what the water committee does so successfully in Waimakariri. And I think that that was very valuable. I got the sense that certainly ECAN staff very clearly understood that and took that away, and so I'll probably just leave that at there's been nothing decided yet, but we've very firmly put that position on behalf of the community that the zone committee largely worked well, so please don't tinker with this more than you possibly have to. I wanted to note just a general point as well, and I just saw some media commentary particularly about nitrates through the central Canterbury, particularly Selwyn district, about their access to water supplies. And there is one point that's pertinent to us, is that I see, for example, Selwyn is considering sourcing in future piped water from and around the waimakariri, up the top there presumably. That's basically to deal with some of their problems in their water supply down country. Now, that is a regional collaboration, and then some sort of, might not directly, we might not be doing that, we might not be in the same position, but the waimakariri belongs to both of us, and that catchment, to some extent, I don't know the geology, the catchment belongs to both of us, the headwaters, the everything. So I thought that's a really interesting consideration, actually, that where we do have to work collaboratively, even at a high level, to understand what other councils are doing. Because if someone's taking their water, piping it down country, might not be at our cost, but we need to know what's happening in the environment up there. So I think that's a discussion worth having in future with them.
Thank you. Any questions of Councillor Fulton? That was reported back to the Mayoral Forum the other day, just an update on the status, so that'll be something that will be, the future shape will be considered next year. But they have listened to, it would appear, our feedback, so it's that boundary, those boundaries and that will be a measure that will be hopefully confirmed next year. Climate change and sustainability, Councillor Mealings.
Thank you. So for the Canterbury Climate Partnership Plan, there has been a bit of a realignment of who's leading what actions for that plan, with some changes to the project leads of some of those actions. So one of those changes is for RVJ, who's the co-lead on the Canterbury Risk Visualization Tool, so REX, the thing that I talk about a lot. She's stepping down from that one to lead the Blue-Green Network project as a solo lead, because right now they've got a couple people leading those, and I think too many cooks spoil the broth, I think. But the cohorts from Selwyn District Council are conversely doing the same, so they're changing from the Blue-Green Network to the Risk Visualization Tool. So it's just a bit of a shuffle of workload there. In the Canterbury Climate Working Group, there has also been a clarification of roles and a renewed commitment from many of the councils there who've stepped up with their input for this financial year. And all of those actions that have been initiated to date are on track, although more progress has been made on some than others. As for embedding climate resilience into council operations, excuse me, guys, a climate resilience roadmap has been included in our 24-25 annual report for the first time. Now, it was quite interesting because Audit New Zealand gave us the following feedback. So I had a look at the high-level climate change roadmap, well-thought plan. Be interested to see how council can take action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, whether this is something the council would consider in the 27 LTP and start to report greenhouse emissions. So that was their words. So Audit New Zealand has basically given us a wee prod to start greenhouse gas emissions reporting. So that is something that we should probably start to move on. And I don't know if you guys have heard or read about the Tower Insurance's move to expand its risk ratings and risk-based pricing to include landslide and sea surge risks. But that is something that an insurance company is doing. They have all their own data, they have all their own models, it's proprietary. They don't share that with anybody else, but they've decided that they were going to adjust their pricing for those things that they see are risks that they're not very comfortable with. Now, that's going to impact tower customers who live in areas that are subject to those risks around the country. And that decision to do that has brought a little bit of focus back to local and central government, back onto those issues, where everybody's been looking over here and not paying any attention to that stuff. All of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, actually, this is a thing, and we need to pay some attention to it. The feeling at this point is here in the waimakariri, we're well placed to deal with that, but that's just a watch this space thing and something we need to be cognizant of. I attended the last Christchurch City Council's Coastal Hazards Working Group meeting for the triennium as part of my, under the auspices of the Mayoral Forum and GCP, which I've been sitting as an observer through those right through the last 5-6 years now. And they are now looking at their next steps, and one of which is to broaden their focus from just simply coastal hazards to climate hazards. And we all know in this district, things like rivers can be a threat, so, they realize they need to understand the climate risks to their assets and their communities. It has been really good witnessing their process, and I think that there's a lot that we can learn from it for our own district, things that we can take and employ here or not. So it's been quite useful, I think, from our district's point of view to have a window into what they've been doing there. On the biodiversity front, there's been a lot of great biodiversity enhancement going on in our natural reserves, and we've got several PhD and master students doing various projects in the Waimakariri at the moment, which is a win-win for everybody because they do their research, we are the beneficiaries of that research, and the research projects that they do are high quality, they're PhD candidates, so it's one less thing that we have to fund, and we get the benefit of their findings, and they get to write their papers. So that's a fantastic cooperation that we have with the universities, so long may it continue. With the natural environment strategy, we are currently planning all actions for this year and trying to ensure that we've got 100% started and complete everything that can be done for the year. We've got one of our new ecologists is about to start work on the land disposal project, working with the property department to do a desk study of all areas to identify opportunities for biodiversity and recreation. And two of our ecologists are also assisting with a Pamu lizard education and planting day. So we did that last year, and that got a lot of interest, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out with that. The final draft of the Canterbury Biodiversity Strategy has been put out to participants in the workshop forums over the last year, because they've been sort of, I think we've had 3 workshops on this so far, where we have people from right across the spectrum, everything from people working in pest control to Fonterra, the Port of Littleton, and local body members, you name it. It's been quite a comprehensive group of people, and they've workshopped what that strategy should look like, and they've got a final draft now that's going to be presented to ECAN tomorrow, but the participants in those workshops over the last year have also been given the opportunity to make comment on that draft, but I just received it yesterday and I haven't read through it yet, so can't tell you much more than that. There's several events to mark the Welcoming the Birds initiative of the last week, and those have been held in collaboration with the Waimakariri Biodiversity Trust, the Ashley Rakahuri River Care Group, and some businesses. And that's important because, as I heard it described yesterday on the radio, I thought, that's poignant. We won't protect the things we don't care about, and we can't care about things we don't know about. And that is why education and raising awareness of our amazing biodiversity is so important and worthwhile. So I will leave you with that thought, and that's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions of Nikki? Just a couple of things to add, that we last week went to the greening of Papatuanuku, which is Think Like a Forest, which was really celebrating the works right across the country that's been doing it. Especially as a video or a movie being produced, which is, I think we had this, I think it was called the South Island premiere here at the Town Hall last Wednesday night, and it featured Gil Cox in the work that Trans Waste have been doing up in Cape Valley. I came away from that just reflecting, I was talking to Chris Brown on the way back, over just how proud we should be of all the work that we do across that space. And Nikki, you've given a really excellent summary, but we're a real leader there. We don't go out there and crow from the rooftops about all the work that's going across there. It's just embedded and it's happening. And it's something that I think our staff are leading, along with partnering with our community. So many great things going on out there that are making a real difference. So I think that's something we can be really proud of, especially having watched that video. I was thinking where other areas are at, compared to where we're at. We've got a lot to be proud of there. And thanks for making mention of welcoming the birds it's another really great initiative, and I should have said that actually under acknowledgements right at the start. That was a fantastic event on Sunday, and I'm proud of the work that our staff and that our council have done in that space. Last year there was such a lot of discussion around four-wheel drives and activities, and perhaps whether we ban four-wheel drives from the rivers and those areas. If you're to make a difference in that space, it's through education. And that's exactly what that event was about. And there's a range of things that have been occurring. I encourage all of you to perhaps, there was a number there, so thank you for those who are able to get there, but to find out more about that and support the work of the Ashley Rakahuri River Care Group up in the Form Gallery at the moment, which is just above Coffee Culture. There's a really great exhibition. Grant Davies, a number were there at that opening. Beautiful work, but it absolutely demonstrates the importance of the bird life and that which exists within our river area. Some of the rarest birds in the world are down there. And I didn't necessarily appreciate that until a few years ago. Just what a beautiful natural habitat we have right on our doorsteps and very close to our urban environment. So it's really worth it, the work that they're doing, and it's all connected. So thank you for raising those points.
I 100% agree with you. And I would love to crow from the rooftops about all the work that we're doing, except for we don't have an hour or so just for my update every year. So I always try to kind of clip it as much as possible, and it was still, we've been to be said, but we should be very proud of the work that this council does in natural environment, full stop, and long may it continue.
Thanks, Nikki. All right. Any further questions of Nikki? I think that was a question I raised, sort of. International relationships, Councillor, Deputy Mayor Atkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. VJ Day, the other day, it was very good. Good attendance for what is appearing to be it's a fairly small day, if you like, in comparison to the RSAs. But a very successful day, and a presentation made to Neil Price's family afterwards from the RSA for the special service in which he had given. It was very strange, actually, being on that cenotaph without Neil being there. It was a little different. But however, it was a very good day. New President, Alan West, who's there, and Russell Keatley is now the Vice President of the RSA in Kaipoi. That's all there is on international relations, and I have nothing on property portfolio, Mr.
Thank you. Any questions, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, I noticed in some of the media coverage they said it's their recognition of Vietnam servicemen on that day, but it's not actually, it just happens to coincide, does it? Is it on VJ Day? Do they...
it's the first time it's ever been recognised.
Is it the first time it's been recognised?
In our district.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was coinciding with
I just wondered, is this a precursor to more formal recognition of Vietnam servicemen, is it, on other days?
Oh, well, Vietnam was the following, I attended that on the following Monday.
It's not the same day, but it's
not the same day.
Okay, sorry.
This is VJ, Victory Over Japan Day.
Right, yes.
Yeah, no, and that's been happening for the last 3 or so years, particularly here. Whether VJ Day goes on to have more formal recognition regularly is, I don't know if they even thought of that, but it was coinciding with the 80th anniversary. That's why it was recognised. Any other questions?
Not really a question.
But if I may be so bold as to make a comment with regards to the Vietnam vets commemoration, it really heartens me to see societies ready to finally thank those people for their service. My father's one of those men, and society did not understand what he did for his country whenever he did it, when he came home. And it's only now, the man is 82 years old, and it's only now that our society is actually willing to actually acknowledge what those brave servicemen and women did when they went and answered the call of their country. So I just want to acknowledge the fact that I really appreciate that that is something that is done now.
Thanks, Nikki, and I think it's appropriate to say, I'll send you a copy of the speech that I've given on behalf of the district, which thanked the veterans for their service, because they didn't get the recognition that they deserved when they came home, and they should have, and they deserved it. So I've officially, on the last two that I've attended, apologised for that, and I think the disgusting treatment that they had when they came home, they deserved better. All right. I think that's the end of portfolio updates. Ending on that note, no questions, understanding orders, no urgent general business. We have matters to be considered with the public excluded. Move from the chair that we move to public excluded for the reasons outlined. Is someone prepared to second to Councillor Ward? I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.